If you can relate to any of the upcoming videos, then this is a must-watch.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it? You're not getting it.
Ladies and gentlemen, for tonight's entertainment, I will be playing all the parts. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen...
Who cares? I wouldn't push it if I were you. I didn't ask you a question. Cross your arms. Listen. I don't care.
You're standing under the water, head down, and out of nowhere, it arrives. The perfect line. The comeback you needed 3 hours ago, in a conversation that's already over, with a person who isn't even in the room. You replay it anyway. You sharpen it. You deliver it again, better this time, to an audience of tile and steam. And here's what nobody tells you: that moment is not a coincidence. It's not your brain being weird, or petty, or stuck. It's a documented psychological phenomenon. Your mind running a rehearsal you didn't know you scheduled. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why that happens, and more importantly, you're going to learn how to use it on purpose. You're going to learn the actual structure behind arguments that can't be lost. The same structure used by lawyers, philosophers, and a 2,400-year-old group of Greek teachers who were so good at it, they got their own profession named as an insult. And right at the end, I'm going to give you the one technique that changes everything. The move that lets you walk into any disagreement and come out ahead, even when you're wrong. Not because it's a trick, because of why it works. Stay to the end for that, because it's not what you think. Let's start in the shower. Here's the question: why there? Why not at your desk or mid-conversation when you'd actually need it? The answer lives in something neuroscientists call the default mode network, a system in your brain that switches on the moment you stop focusing on a task. Showering is close to perfect for this. Low stimulation, repetitive sensation, no screen, no decisions. Your conscious mind checks out, and something else checks in. That something else has one job: unfinished business. Psychologists call it the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain holds onto incomplete tasks with far more grip than completed ones. An argument that ended badly, that ended too fast, that ended with someone else having the last word. Your brain logs that as unfinished. A loop with no closure. So it does what any system does with an open loop. It runs it again and again. Each time, you perform a little better. You find the word you missed. You build the rebuttal you didn't have. The French had a phrase for this 2 centuries before neuroscience existed. L'esprit de l'escalier, staircase wit. The genius retort that only arrives once you're already walking down the stairs. The argument unwinnable now because it's over. Your shower thoughts aren't randomness. They're a training simulation, running on a loop for a fight that already happened. Which raises an obvious, slightly dangerous question. If your brain will rehearse a losing argument automatically, what happens when you start feeding it material on purpose, before the argument, not after? That's where this gets interesting, because the rehearsal isn't the powerful part. The structure you rehearse is. To understand that structure, we need to leave the shower and step into a courtroom, a debate stage, a Senate floor, anywhere humans have ever needed to win a room. Because underneath every one of those wins, the same 3-part architecture shows up, regardless of who was actually right. Here's the uncomfortable truth psychology keeps confirming. People are far better at detecting confidence than detecting correctness. Your brain doesn't have a built-in truth detector. It has a fluency detector. Smooth, structured, certain sounding information feels true, whether or not it is. This is the whole engine behind why bad arguments win and good arguments lose. And it runs on 3 pillars. Pillar 1: frame control. Whoever defines the terms of the argument wins it before a single point is made. If I let you decide what we're even arguing about, I've already lost. Politicians do this constantly. Reframe tax increase as fair share. Reframe regulation as protection. The content of the argument never changes. The frame does all the work. Pillar 2: certainty signaling. Hesitation reads as doubt about the position, even when it's actually just doubt about phrasing. Confident delivery gets parsed by the listener's brain as evidence. This is why the most factually shaky person in the room often wins it, not because they're smarter, but because uncertainty is contagious, and so is its opposite. Pillar 3: strategic concession. This is the one nobody expects. The fastest way to look unbeatable is to agree, on purpose, on something small, something true, something the other person didn't expect you to give up. It disarms them. It makes you look reasonable, and it sets up the much larger point you're about to hold completely firm on. Put those 3 together: frame, certainty, calculated concession, and you get something that looks unbeatable. Not because it's true, because it's built like something true, and that should bother you a little, because it means the people who taught this best in human history weren't philosophers chasing truth. They were paid professionals, and one of them built an entire system around it. To find where this architecture actually came from, we have to go back about 2,400 years, to Athens, to the original consultants of persuasion, and the one man who hated everything they stood for. In ancient Athens, a class of professional teachers called sophists charged wealthy young men for lessons in exactly this: how to win an argument in front of a jury, a crowd, an assembly, regardless of which side of the truth you happened to be standing on. They were brilliant, they were effective, and they were, by design, indifferent to whether what they argued was actually correct. Then there was Socrates. Famously, Socrates never wrote anything down, never charged a fee, and almost never made an argument of his own. Instead, he asked questions, relentless, simple-sounding questions. What do you mean by justice? What do you mean by courage? That slowly, methodically, walked the most confident men in Athens into contradicting themselves with their own words. Here's the part that should stop you. Socrates wasn't doing this for cleverness. He was doing it because asking questions is structurally unbeatable in a way that asserting answers never is. If you never state a position, you never give anyone a position to attack. You make them defend theirs, while you simply keep asking why. The sophists eventually lost their reputation. Their name became an insult, a synonym for someone who argues in bad faith. Socrates, who asked questions instead of answering them, became one of the most influential humans who ever lived. And the irony is this: the technique that outlasted all of it, the one still quietly running underneath therapy rooms, negotiation tables, and courtroom cross-examinations today, wasn't built by the side trying to win. It was built by the side trying to understand. Which brings us to the technique I promise you, the one that makes you almost impossible to beat in an argument, and the reason it works has almost nothing to do with being clever. Here it is. The person who needs to win the least controls the entire room. Think back to Pillar 1, frame control. The fastest way to control a frame isn't to assert a stronger one. It's to ask a question the other person has to answer inside your frame without realizing they've stepped into it. What do you mean by that exactly? Sounds like curiosity. It is actually a structural trap. It forces the other person to do the defining, the defending, the explaining, while you stay completely exposed, free, simply listening, simply asking the next question. This is sometimes called the Columbo effect, named after the disheveled TV detective who never accused anyone of anything. He just kept innocently asking. One more thing. People lower their guard around a question. They raise it around a statement. So the unbeatable debater, the one who wins even when they're technically wrong, isn't the loudest voice in the room. It's the last person still asking questions while everyone else has already planted a flag that can be shot down. That's the mechanism. But here's the part that actually matters, the part that separates a philosophy channel from a manipulation seminar. Because there's a twist hiding inside this technique that the sophists never understood and Socrates built his entire life around. The moment you stop needing to win, the moment your questions are genuinely searching for what's true, instead of searching for your opponent's weak point, something strange happens. You become more persuasive, not less. Because the audience, and even your opponent, can feel the difference between a question built to trap and a question built to understand. One creates resistance, the other creates trust. So the real secret isn't a rhetorical trick at all. It's that the desire to win an argument is usually the exact thing standing between you and actually winning it. The shower version of you, replaying the fight, sharpening the comeback. That version is optimizing for being right. The version that questions instead of asserts, that concedes small points freely, that genuinely wants to find where the truth actually sits. That version doesn't need the comeback. People hand them the room. So next time you're standing in the shower, rehearsing a fight that's already over, notice what your brain is actually doing. It's not being petty. It's training you for the wrong goal. It's building you a better weapon for a war that doesn't need to be won. Use the architecture, use the questions, but use them the way the man who lost his own trial and won the argument of human history used them, not to be unbeatable, to be undeniable. If this kind of thing is interesting to you, the hidden mechanics behind why people think, argue, and believe the things they do, subscribe, because that's exactly what this channel is built on.